You see them everywhere. On Instagram, smiling in soft sunlight. Matching outfits, vacation photos, anniversary captions longer than wedding vows. From the outside, their relationship looks perfect. But here's the strange part. They feel lonely. Not single lonely. Not heartbreak lonely. A deeper kind of loneliness. The kind where someone sleeps beside you every night. Yet emotionally you feel untouched. No big fights. No dramatic betrayal. No obvious problems. And still something feels missing. Today, psychologists are noticing a disturbing trend. Modern couples are not breaking up because they hate each other. They're breaking up because they feel nothing. This is the story of why relationships in the modern world often feel emotionally empty, even when everything looks right. And the answer has less to do with love, and more to do with how our brains have changed. Section 1: The Death of Needing Each Other 13800. For most of human history, relationships were not primarily emotional decisions. They were survival decisions. You didn't marry because someone understood your soul. You married because winter was coming. Love was optional. Partnership was necessary. Two humans together meant shared labor, shared protection, shared resources, shared survival. And strangely, this created emotional closeness. Because dependence creates bonding. Your brain releases attachment chemicals strongest when someone becomes essential to your safety. But modern relationships removed necessity. Today, a partner is no longer your food, your shelter, your survival, your social identity. They are now supposed to be your best friend, your therapist, your entertainment, your emotional healer, your co-parent, your financial equal, your soulmate, your passion, your peace. One person now carries the emotional expectations that 30 people used to carry in a tribe. And the brain struggles with this. Because the brain bonds through reliance, not convenience. When you don't truly need someone, your mind subconsciously treats them as optional. And optional things never feel deeply secure. This creates the first modern relationship paradox. The healthier and more independent we become, the harder it becomes to feel deeply bonded. Not because love is gone, but because dependency is gone. And without psychological dependency, attachment weakens. You can leave anytime. So your brain never fully settles. Section 2: The Illusion of Constant Availability 800-1600. There was a time when missing someone was unavoidable. You waited days for a letter, hours for a phone call, weeks to see them again. Distance created emotional intensity. Your mind filled the silence with imagination. Anticipation strengthened attachment. Now, you can message them anytime. And that changed love forever. Modern couples are in constant contact, yet feel less connected. Why? Because the brain values what is scarce. When communication becomes unlimited, it loses emotional weight. Good morning texts stop meaning "I thought about you." They become routine maintenance. Voice notes replace real conversations. Memes replace emotional vulnerability. You are talking more, but revealing less. The brain detects novelty and effort to measure emotional importance. And instant messaging removes effort. So slowly, subconsciously, your partner stops feeling emotionally significant. Not consciously. Neurologically. You didn't lose feelings. Your brain stopped registering emotional impact. This creates the second paradox of modern love. Unlimited communication produces emotional numbness. You never get the chance to miss each other enough to feel. Transition 1600-1700. So now we have two invisible forces. Independence weakening attachment. Constant communication weakening emotional intensity. But the biggest change hasn't even started yet. Because the real damage came when relationships stopped being experienced and started being compared. And that began the moment love moved onto screens. Most people think relationships end in a moment. A betrayal. A fight. A confession. A door slammed shut. But real relationships almost never die that way. They die slowly. Quietly. Almost politely. Two people still live together. Still talk. Still function. But something invisible is gone. No explosion. No villain. No clear reason. Just a strange emotional silence. And one day someone says, I don't feel the same anymore. Not because of cheating. Not because of abuse. But because love faded. So the question becomes terrifying. How can love disappear when nothing went wrong? Today we're uncovering the real psychological reason couples stop loving each other. And it's not what you think. Love doesn't die from conflict. Love dies from familiarity without emotional renewal. Section 1, Love is not a feeling, it's a brain state. 140-10-00. When people say, I fell out of love, they imagine emotions changing. But neuroscience shows something else happened. Their brain stopped producing a specific chemical pattern. Early love activates dopamine, right arrow, obsession and excitement. Norepinephrine, right arrow, attention and energy. Serotonin, drop, intrusive thinking. Oxytocin, right arrow, bonding. This creates the can't stop thinking about you phase. You don't choose this. Your brain is literally in a motivated addiction state. Your partner feels special not because they are objectively special, but because your brain filters reality around them. They glow psychologically. But the brain cannot sustain this forever. If it did, you would never focus on survival, work, or life. So nature built a system. The brain slowly normalizes emotional intensity. Not because love ended. Because the brain adapts to stability. This is called hedonic adaptation. Anything constant becomes invisible to the mind. Even the person you once adored. So after 1-3 years, the brain stops rewarding presence. And here is where relationships diverge. Healthy couples transition from excitement bonding meaning bonding. But most modern couples don't. They unknowingly transition into neutral coexistence. They still care. But the emotional signal weakened. And the brain interprets weaker emotional signal as, I must not love them anymore. The first illusion of fading love is actually your brain learning safety. But safety without emotional effort feels like emotional absence. Section 2, The Comfort Trap. 10-00-1900. Comfort is supposed to be the goal of love. But comfort is also what slowly kills attraction. At the beginning, you observe each other carefully. You listen deeply. You reveal yourself gradually. Your attention is intense. Attention creates emotional energy. Later, you stop noticing. You already know them. The brain stops updating its internal model of the person. Psychologically, they become predictable. Predictability removes curiosity. And curiosity is the fuel of emotional connection. This creates the comfort trap. You feel safe but not emotionally stimulated. No tension. No discovery. No uncertainty. And the brain labels this state as boredom. But boredom inside attachment feels like lost love. So couples start searching for explanations. Maybe we grew apart. Maybe we're incompatible. Maybe we rushed. Maybe love ended. But often nothing ended. The brain simply stopped receiving novelty from the same source. And here is the dangerous part. Humans are wired to confuse emotional intensity with emotional truth. New person, right arrow, dopamine spike, right arrow, feels like real love. Familiar partner, right arrow, calm stability, right arrow, feels like fading love. But biologically, the second state is actually deeper attachment. Modern relationships collapse because people expect permanent emotional fireworks from a brain designed for adaptation. They believe love should feel the same forever. But love was never meant to feel the same. It was meant to evolve. When couples don't actively create psychological novelty, the brain searches for it elsewhere. Not intentionally. Neurologically. And that is usually when people say, something feels missing. Transition 1900-2000. So love didn't disappear. The brain changed how it experiences the same person. But the next phase is where real damage begins. Because modern life doesn't just remove novelty. It replaces it with infinite alternatives. And once the brain believes better emotional stimulation exists somewhere else, Attachment weakens without either partner realizing why. There
Back
is
in
a
index
moment in
pointing right.
almost every long relationship that nobody talks about. Nothing bad happens, but suddenly, someone else feels interesting. Not necessarily attractive. Not necessarily better. Just stimulating. You laugh more with them. Conversations feel effortless. Time moves faster. And then a dangerous thought appears. Why does this feel easier than my relationship? Most people assume this means something is wrong with their partner. But psychology suggests something else entirely. Your brain is reacting to novelty contrast. The brain is a difference detector. The human brain does not measure value directly. It measures change. Your partner used to feel exciting because they were unknown. Every conversation revealed new information. Every habit felt unique. Every reaction surprised you. But after years together, your brain predicts them. And prediction removes dopamine. Now enter a new person. Your brain cannot predict them. So attention increases. You ask more questions. You listen more carefully. You are mentally present again. Not because they're more compatible. Because they're less known. This creates a powerful illusion. Novelty feels like compatibility. Why conversations feel deeper with strangers. With a new person, you explain your life story. You present your best self. They react with curiosity. Your brain experiences validation and discovery simultaneously. But with your partner, you already know each other's stories. So conversations become logistical. Did you pay the bill? What should we eat? Don't forget tomorrow. The relationship didn't lose emotional depth. It lost narrative freshness. And humans bond through storytelling. When storytelling disappears, emotional intensity fades. So the new person feels emotionally rich. Because you're retelling yourself through fresh eyes. You're not connecting to them. You're reconnecting to a version of yourself your partner already knows. The dangerous interpretation. This is where relationships silently fracture. The mind concludes, I feel more alive with them than with my partner. But aliveness comes from uncertainty, not compatibility. The new person activates exploration mode. Your partner activates stability mode. Both are necessary for long-term bonding. Yet modern culture teaches, excitement equals true love. Calm equals settling. So people misdiagnose emotional security as emotional loss. And once that belief forms, detachment begins. Section 4, the micro-disconnection habit 3200-4600. Relationships rarely end because of one big moment. They end because of thousands of tiny moments. Moments so small they seem meaningless. But psychologically, they are everything. What is a micro-disconnection? A micro-disconnection is when one partner reaches emotionally, and the other doesn't respond. Not rejection, just absence. Examples. You show them a video, they barely react. You tell a story, they keep scrolling. You share stress, they offer a solution instead of empathy. You speak, they half listen. Nothing harmful happened. Yet the brain registers something important. My inner world didn't land. This moment lasts seconds. But the emotional memory lasts years. The emotional bank account. Every interaction deposits or withdraws emotional security. Small attentions equals deposits. Small dismissals equals withdrawals. Couples don't notice withdrawals because they're not painful. They're subtle. But the brain tracks patterns. After enough micro misses, you stop sharing. Not consciously. Automatically. You begin editing yourself. You share less excitement. Less fear. Less curiosity. And the relationship becomes functional instead of emotional. You still cooperate. But you stop revealing. Why couples say we grew apart? They didn't grow apart. They slowly stopped updating each other. The person beside you becomes a familiar stranger. You know their habits, but not their current thoughts. Intimacy requires continuous discovery. Without it, the brain categorizes the partner as background presence. Like furniture in a room you stop noticing. And once a person becomes psychologically background, the relationship feels empty, even if nothing is wrong. Transition 4600-4730. So love doesn't collapse dramatically. It fades through comparison and silence between small moments. But the deepest shift hasn't happened yet. Because eventually, couples stop trying not out of laziness, but because their brain believes effort no longer changes anything. There is a phase when emotional resignation begins, peaceful from the outside. No arguments, no tension, no complaints. But internally, something has changed. Both partners have stopped trying. Not because they don't care. Because they no longer believe effort matters. This is emotional resignation. And it's one of the strongest predictors that love is fading. How it begins. At first, couples communicate needs directly. Can we spend more time together? I feel like you don't listen. I miss how we used to talk. But if those requests don't lead to emotional change, the brain learns a painful lesson. Expression doesn't improve connection. So it adapts. Instead of repeating unmet needs, the mind reduces expectation. This feels like maturity. But psychologically, it's withdrawal. You stop asking. You stop explaining. You stop hopping. Peace replaces intimacy. Why this feels like falling out of love? Love depends on emotional responsiveness. Not perfection. Not agreement. Responsiveness. When partners feel their emotions don't influence the relationship anymore, attachment weakens. The brain interprets unresponsiveness as social distance. And distance reduces bonding chemicals over time. Eventually, the relationship becomes cooperative living. You share space. You share plans. You share responsibilities. But you stop sharing inner experience. And without shared inner experience, the brain stops labeling the person as emotionally central. This is when people say, I love them but I'm not in love with them. What they really mean is, the relationship stopped reacting to my emotions. The quiet agreement. Most couples never discuss this stage. Instead, an unspoken contract forms. I won't push you if you don't push me. Arguments disappear. But so does emotional energy. Because conflict isn't the opposite of love. Indifference is. When emotional reactions vanish, the brain stops investing attention. And attention is the fuel of attachment. Without attention, love doesn't break. It evaporates. Section 6, the identity freeze 60007400. Humans are not static beings. We constantly update our identity. New fears. New goals. New beliefs. New insecurities. But long relationships often freeze perception. Partners stop seeing who the other is becoming. And only see who they were. The memory version of your partner. Your brain creates a mental model of your partner early in the relationship. This model becomes efficient. So instead of observing them freshly, you predict them. You think you already know what they'll say, what they like, what they believe, what they need. So curiosity stops. Questions stop. Exploration stops. But growth doesn't stop. Your partner changes silently. And eventually they feel unseen. Not unloved. Unseen. Why feeling unseen breaks love? Recognition is one of the deepest emotional needs. We bond strongest with people who continually rediscover us. When rediscovery stops, psychological loneliness begins. You can live together for years, while emotionally living alone. The brain experiences this as disconnection. And then a subtle shift happens. You no longer bring new parts of yourself into the relationship. You develop them outside. New thoughts go to friends. New interests go online. New emotions stay internal. Your partner receives an outdated version of you. So both people slowly fall in love with memories instead of each other. The moment love freezes, love requires updating, not remembering. Couples don't lose love because personalities changed. They lose love because perception didn't. The relationship becomes a museum. Everything preserved, nothing alive. And humans cannot emotionally bond with a static image. They bond with a living mind. Transition 7400-7530. By now, the relationship hasn't ended. It still works. But emotionally, both people live parallel lives. The final stage begins when the brain looks for emotional aliveness again. Not through another person. But through distance itself, there is a moment many couples secretly experience. The partner leaves the house, and instead of missing them, you feel lighter. Not happier, not freer, just calmer. No tension in the chest, no mental monitoring, no subtle pressure to respond emotionally. And that feeling is confusing, because nothing bad happened between you. Yet their absence feels easier than their presence. This is the stage where attachment has weakened so gradually. The nervous system no longer relaxes around the relationship. Why presence starts feeling heavy? In healthy attachment, a partner reduces stress. Your brain registers them as safety. But after long emotional disconnection, the opposite occurs. Your brain associates interaction with effort. You must respond correctly, show interest, mirror emotion, avoid conflict, maintain harmony. Even without arguments, this becomes cognitive work. So the nervous system rests more when alone. And the brain draws a dangerous conclusion. Maybe I'm happier without them. But this relief isn't joy. It's the removal of emotional responsibility. The relationship became psychologically demanding, without providing emotional reward. So distance feels peaceful. The weekend test. Many people notice this phase during short separations. Business trips, family visits, different schedules. At first they expect longing. Instead they experience mental quiet. They think more clearly, sleep deeper, feel more themselves. Then guilt appears. Because nothing is wrong. Yet something is missing. Not love, but emotional resonance. And once the brain experiences relief repeatedly, detachment accelerates. Why couples don't talk about this? Because it sounds cruel. No one wants to say, I feel calmer when you're gone. So partners hide the feeling. They act normal, but subconsciously reduce interaction. Shorter conversations, later replies, less eye contact, more distractions. Not intentionally. Neurologically protective. The brain avoids environments that feel effortful without reward. Eventually, both partners participate in silent distancing, and neither understands why. Section 8, the substitute connection 8800100200. At this stage, people rarely look for another relationship. They look for another state of mind. Aliveness. And the brain finds it in unexpected places, where emotional energy moves. Instead of the partner, emotional investment shifts toward work achievements, online communities, friends, hobbies, personal growth, strangers. Conversations elsewhere feel engaging again. You feel expressive again, curious again. You laugh more easily. So the mind assumes the relationship must be the problem. But what actually happened is simpler. Your brain bonded with responsiveness. Wherever your emotions are received, attachment grows. Where they are not, attachment weakens. Love didn't vanish. It relocated. The emotional outsourcing effect. You start sharing important thoughts with others first. Not out of secrecy. Out of habit. Because response feels more natural there. Gradually, your partner becomes the last to know your inner world. And intimacy depends on first sharing. Who hears your thoughts first? Hold your emotional closeness. So even without cheating, emotional exclusivity disappears. And the relationship becomes structurally empty. Still loyal, but no longer central. Why breakups suddenly feel obvious? From the outside, the breakup seems sudden. We were fine last month. But psychologically, the relationship ended long before. The decision simply became conscious. Because one's emotional life exists mostly outside the relationship. Staying together feels illogical. Not painful, just unnecessary. Transition 102.00.103.30. By now love hasn't exploded. It has dissolved. No betrayal. No hatred. No dramatic collapse. Only two people slowly becoming emotionally irrelevant to each other. But the final question remains. If love fades this quietly, can it be rebuilt? Or was it never meant to last this?